Hey, what's up, guys? This is Mike from Deepwood Force of Will, coming at you with a new series that we decided to start on the channel. This is a video that's going to be pretty relevant to a lot of players that are looking to join into the game. With Lapis Cluster coming up around the corner, it's no better time to do this, because we're going to have a lot of new players coming in. This is a series on how to play Force of Will. Now, for anybody who already knows the game, this video will be just redundancy and a lot of things you already know, but if you want to share it with your friends who have expressed interest in the game, be sure to, help them check it out. So, this is going to be episode 1 of How to Play Force of Will. We're going to start off very easy with the basics of the game. So we're going to start off with different types of cards. All the way on the left, we have our ruler. A ruler is very similar to, if you've played Magic before, the commander format, where you have one card that gives you extra abilities throughout the game. Rulers are basically this. A lot of rulers have the ability to perform judgment, which is where they flip over to the opposite side of themselves, where they most of the time have stats and different abilities from the front. And basically they're also your source of mana, or your ability to play the game in a way. We'll go into that in a little bit. To the right of that, we have a Resonator. For anybody coming from any other games, this is your creature, your minion, your monster, anything you want to call it. It's something that gives you board presence and remains on the board to have its effects last. Those also, most of the time, they have stats where they can do battle, and we'll go in more into what that means later. These cards are considered summon spells. This is an important fact to know for cards such as Zeke's the Ancient Magic, where it says cancel target summon spell. You'll have to know what that is, and that is a Resonator. Going on to the next one, we have spells, which will soon be called chants in Lapis Cluster, but before that drops, these are still going to be considered spell chants, or spell chant instants, spell chant standbys, as it says down there. We also have additions, which are spells that remain on the board, either affecting the board in some way or affecting your Resonators in some way. And that is considered a normal spell. All of those that I just listed there, all are considered normal spells. And that includes Regalia. Regalia are very, very similar to spell chants, where they're played at the same time that spell chants are played. They remain on the board when you play them, and normally are very cheap and have many different effects, most of the time affecting your J-ruler in some way. Your J-ruler being the opposite side of your ruler. That activates when you judgment. So that is also considered a normal spell. These are the 4 types of cards in a way that you're going to be seeing. We could go into more detail on other mechanics, but that'll be for a later time. So just make sure you know what these 4 mean and what they do. So going on to the next little bit of information here, we're going to talk about some key terms that are going to come up in this video, so definitely make sure you know what's happening here. One thing that you have to know is what it means to rest a card in Force of Will. If you've played Magic the Gathering, this is the equivalent to tapping, where you, by activating a card, you flip it to its side. As you can see here, Memory of the Seven Lands is flipped to its side. That means the card is rested, or tapped. Many people just call it tapping because they come from a background in Magic the Gathering, and that's totally fine. As long as your opponent knows what you're doing, and as long as you visually represent it, everything should be fine. Now on the flip side of that, pun not intended, we have Recover. Recover is the opposite of resting, also known as Untap in Magic the Gathering, where you take a rested card, such as this ruler here, and you recover it, which is putting it back upright the way it was at first. So those two go back and forth like that, resting and recovering. Very basic ideas, but very important to know for the rest of this video. And very important to know for the game. This is the basis of the game, so be sure you understand what these 2 rules mean. The next is to draw. So we have our hand here. A hand in Force of Will has a maximum of 7 cards. We have 2 in our hand right here, being Herald of the Beast Lady and Foresee. And over on the right there is our main deck. The main deck is the deck you will be drawing from. The deck that has all the cards that you want to play in it. So let's say the top card of your main deck is Artemis the God's Bow, the Regalia we saw earlier, as you can see there. So when it is time to draw by any effect, say you activate Foresee and you draw 2 cards using that effect, you will be drawing from the main deck. So that Artemis the God's Bow will go from your main deck into your hand. Very important to know that. You don't draw from any other deck besides your main deck, so be sure to know that. And That's pretty much all there is to do about drawing. Certain instances will cause you to draw. There's a draw phase, so be sure to know where you're drawing from and what you're going to do once you've drawn those cards. So next up is the game board. Now the game board this is what the recommended look for the game board should be, but a lot of players tend to just kind of move everything around on the board for their comfort level. As long as you're telling your opponent where everything is, as long as your opponent is aware of where you're putting everything, you don't have to follow this kind of guide to where you should put stuff, but it's always nice to make sure your opponent knows, and this is a really easy way to let people know, to help people understand where everything should go and the fact that things are separated. Now, I want to talk quickly about the life break area and the call phase area, the call phase. So, the life break area is an area for cards that was used during the Valhalla format. This is the first format of Force of Will, and since that format, it has been scrapped. The life break system is no longer in use unless you're playing Origin format, which is basically every card that's ever existed is allowed. And the call phase was also gotten rid of during Valhalla. We'll go more into what calling means, but there's no longer a separate phase for it. Calling occurs during the main phase now. So going into this little area here, at our top left, we see the Magic Stone deck. This is where you put your sources for will or mana in this game. We'll see how they come out of that deck in a little bit, but once they come out of that deck, they go into the Magic Stones area. This is to the left of your ruler. You will put your Magic Stones there when you take them out of the deck. From then on, you can use them to produce your will or mana for the rest of the game. To the right of that is where you place your ruler. Your ruler will stay there until you J-activate, where you can either leave the J-activated ruler or judgmented ruler in the ruler spot, or you can put it onto the field depending on your comfort level. To the right of that is the standby area. We'll go into that in a little bit, but that's where you can play cards face down and activate them at a later time. Going up from there is the graveyard. This is where cards are put when they are sent from the field to the graveyard by any means, such as being destroyed or being banished, as we call it in this game. It's kind of like just being sent to the grave in other games. And also when cards are discarded. Discard is when you have to put a card from your hand directly into the graveyard. And last but not least, up at the top right, we have our main deck area. As we said before, the main deck is where you draw your cards from during the draw phase or by any means other. And you can search your main deck with certain cards for specific cards. Pretty straightforward, but it's good to know where everything is. Now going down to the bottom there, we have the phases in order. You start your turn at the top of that phase guide, and then you draw during your draw phase. During the draw phase, you draw one card from your main deck. Pretty standard. The recovery phase is where you recover your cards. We'll go over that in a little while. The call phase, again, is no longer in, and now instead of the call phase, you just go directly into the main phase, and anytime during the main phase, you can call, and we'll go over that in a second. During the main phase, you can mention to your opponent that you are going into the battle phase. If your opponent allows that, the battle phase begins, and then once the battle phase ends, you go directly back into the main phase. This can be repeated as long as you have Resonators that can battle, but once you have no more that can battle and no more cards to be played during the main phase, you go to the end phase. Once the end phase ends, the turn ends. So, end of phase and end of turn are two separate things, so you can activate certain cards in the end phase, but you can also activate certain cards at the end of turn. That's a very minor distinction, but comes into play with certain cards, but that's for a later time. That's a little too complex for the basics. So we're going to go into how to call a stone. Now, again, as I said, the call phase was scrapped in favor of having the call for a stone be during the main phase at any time. So here we have our ruler in the ruler area. Now, in order to call a stone, it's very simple. As long as your ruler is recovered and is standing straight up like that, all you have to do is tap your ruler, take the top card of your Magic Stone deck, and put it into play. As you can see, we tapped into a Fire Magic Stone. On the Fire Magic Stone, you see its effect, where it says Produce Red Will, which is Fire Will. All stones will tell you what they produce on them, unless they're full art text lists, but that's just for aesthetic purposes. So every stone should say produce whatever the color is. Pretty straightforward. Once the stone is in play, it comes in recovered, and you can rest it to activate any cards you want to activate for the rest of the turn. So the alternative to tapping for a stone that a player can do during their turn is the Judgment. Judgment, or J-Activate as it was called before the set, the Twilight Wanderer. If you see the word J-Activate, don't worry, it's the same thing as Judgment. The official rules say that the turn player may perform a Judgment if they have priority, meaning it's your turn, your opponent isn't trying to muscle in on your territory right there. It is their main phase, which it will be because you draw a phase, you recover, and then you go to your main phase. The chase area is empty. That means that no cards are currently being played. If a card is being played, the chase area is not empty. So make sure that nothing is already trying to be activated when you try to Judgment. They have a recovered ruler in their ruler area, as you can see we do, and they haven't done Judgment this turn. That is a very important distinction. You cannot do Judgment more than once per turn, even if your J-ruler goes back to its ruler side recovered. So as you can see on Memory of the Seven Lands, the word Judgment 4 is present. Judgment 4 means that for any 4 will or mana, you can pay those 4 as long as you're recovered to flip your Memory of the Seven Lands over to its other side. So we're going to do that. Tap 4 down, or rest 4, to flip over Memory of the Seven Lands into Melgus Conqueror of Flame. As you see, the J-ruler has an attack and defense stat, so it can do battle. And as you can see, I've moved the ruler from the ruler area into your field. Now, you don't have to do this, you could leave it in the ruler area, but make sure your opponent knows that as long as it is on this side, it can do battle, and probably will do battle. So, make sure you keep that in mind when you're J-activating. When a J-ruler is destroyed, by any means, it is flipped back to its ruler side, and it cannot perform Judgment for the rest of the game if it has been destroyed as a J-ruler. So, very important distinction to make. Know that your J-ruler is very susceptible to removal options, and once you do, you lose a lot of late-game presence. But at the same time, if you want to go in with your J-ruler and you have nothing else better to do, go all in. Now next we're going to talk about cards, the actual cards that you're going to be drawing and playing from your hand, or from your graveyard if you have other effects, but that's more complex than we need to get into right now. So on the left we have our Resonator, Herald of the Beast Lady. You can see the name is displayed at the top of the card. To the left of that is the amount of will that you need in order to activate the card. You see that it needs 1 green will, that is its cost, and because it needs 1 will and no more than 1 will, its converted cost is 1. Underneath the picture of it, the adorable little rabbit that it is, you see that it says Resonator, which is what it is, and then next to that it says Beast. The little tag after the Resonator and after the colon next to Resonator is the card's race. Certain cards of certain races, or if you want to put it into Magic terms, their tribe, in Yu-Gi-Oh terms, their archetype. The Resonator's race is basically just, say you have a card that says target beast gains plus 200 attack. That can only be used on Herald of the Beast Lady due to the fact that it is a beast. So certain cards have certain interactions with certain races. Underneath the race, underneath the Resonator / beast that you see there would be its effect, but Herald of the Beast Lady has no effect. It's a very basic Resonator, but underneath the effect, as you see there, would be its flavor text. The flavor text is just kind of a little blurb that describes the card a little bit, or gives backstory to the card's story. Underneath that, you see its attack and defense. The attack and defense of Herald of the Beast Lady are 400 for the attack and 400 for the defense. And to the right of that, you see this little leaf symbol. That's the card's attribute. So because Herald of the Beast Lady has a green leaf symbol, that means it is a wind attribute card. And way down at the bottom left, you see the letters SKL and the numbers 057. SKL is the set that Herald of the Beast Lady is from, meaning 7 Kings of the Land. The number is whatever its number was in the guidebook that comes along with everything. And the C next to it is its rarity. So because it says C, Herald of the Beast Lady is a common card. And then the rest of it is just all stuff that's just like copyright, force of will, and whoever illustrated the card. Not really important to know, but obviously if you like the illustrations by that artist, you can look them up if you have a Japanese keyboard. And onto the right there, we see the card Foresee. Foresee Again, as you can tell, the spell chants have their name way up at the top. Next to that is its will cost. As you can see, there are 2 blue mana displayed there. So 4C's cost is 2 blue, and its converted cost is 2. Converted cost meaning, again, how much mana of any color is needed overall to play the card. 4C's effect is displayed underneath the picture. It's a beautiful picture, of course. And the effect says draw 2 cards. Very straightforward. It's Pot of Greed, if you played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before. Underneath that effect to draw 2 cards, you have your flavor text again. This one's a quote from the prediction of a fortune teller. Sometimes the flavor text is a description, sometimes it's a quote. It's pretty straightforward in that regard. Underneath that, you see the type of card it is. It is a spell chant. All spells have their type displayed underneath this, so 4C is a spell chant. Again, to the right, we see the attribute of the card. Because 4C has the blue little drops there, we know that it is a water attribute card. Again, to the bottom left, the SKL is present, which means this is also a card from Seven Kings of the Land. It is card number 39 out of the set, and it is a common because of that C. And again, all the copyright and illustration credits. So these are the very basics of the cards, and now we will go in to show you how to play those cards. So as you can see, Herald of the Beast Lady again has that cost of 1 wind magic stone, or 1 wind will. Let's try saying that 10 times fast. With that converted cost of 1, as you can see, we've tapped our Memory of the 7 Lands, and it has produced us a wind magic stone from our magic stone deck. Now, in order to play Herald of the Beast Lady, all you have to do is tap your stone. Once the stone is tapped, the will is produced, and you play the Herald from your hand. The Herald then enters the board, and as long as its summon does not get cancelled, it is considered to be in play. Now on to the next card. Spells are pretty much played the exact same way. You look at the cost, you see it's 2 blue will, 2 water will, for a converted cost of 2. Memory of the 7 Lands has tapped into 2 water magic stones this time, so perfect. We'll have just enough to play 4C, so all you have to do is tap down the 2, play the 4C, and you get the effect to draw 2 cards from your main deck. Now, something not shown here is that when 4C is activated, or any spell that isn't a Regalia, Addition Field, or Addition Resonator is played, they are sent to the graveyard after their activation, so they do not stick on the board the same way that Resonators do, or Additions, or Regalia in that regard. So be sure to keep that in mind. On to the next card. We've seen Artemis Bow before. We saw it as our Regalia example. Artemis the God's Bow is a fairly unique card in the fact that, along with a lot of other Regalia, it has a cost of 0. If you look on the card, you can see that the 0 is displayed next to the will symbols area. You see that no will symbols are down, so it does not need any will of specific attributes. And you see the 0. The 0 next to it is how much you will pay in just any will, or as we like to call it, void will. So basically, because Artemis the God's Bow says it costs 0 will to play it, you put it down without even tapping any magic stones. As you can see, there are no magic stones in our magic stones area, and we haven't even tapped our ruler this turn, so just play it for free, and it sticks on the board, same way as all Regalia do. Now, there are other Regalia in the game, such as the Nameless Tank, which do cost will to play. So as you can see, Nameless Tank costs 3 to play, the 3 being any will possible. So as you can see, we've tapped a Wind Magic Stone, a Water Magic Stone, and a Fire Magic Stone. So once we've played those 3 will, you play the Nameless Tank. As long as it does not get cancelled, it goes onto the board, and it stays on the board. So basically the same way that Artemis the God's Bow worked, except you have to pay for it. So keep in mind when you're looking at your Regalia, make sure you check that little number. It'll tell you how much you have to pay for everything. Now, going on to, again, as we were talking about the recovery phase, this occurs after you draw your first card for the turn. Before the recovery phase, you can activate any effects that are lingering on the field, but after all those effects have been resolved, you move to recovery phase. All you have to do is declare you're going to recover, and bam, just put things right side up. It's simple as that, and then once the recovery phase is over, move into your main phase, and then you can start playing your cards and tapping everything down again. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about graveyard interaction. So, say there's an effect that deals 400 damage to your Herald of the Beast Lady. This could be such as Artemis the God's Bow's effect to deal 400 when something attacks or blocks. But by any means necessary, Herald of the Beast Lady takes 400 damage. Now, Herald of the Beast Lady's defense is only 400. So, when it takes this 400 damage, its defense is reduced to 0. When any Resonator's defense is reduced to 0 or below, it is considered destroyed and is sent to the graveyard like so. Now, other effects can destroy and banish Resonators and put them into the graveyard without damage, but we won't go into those now. Just know that if a card is ever destroyed while it's on your field, it goes straight to the graveyard. Now, onto the more challenging, I would say, aspect of Force of Will would be the Chant-Standby Area, or Standby Area as it says there. The Standby Area is something that I had trouble with when I first started out the game, and I wish somebody had given me like a comprehensive guide on how to do it. So here I am giving a comprehensive guide on how to play it. So from the Force of Will rulebook, it says that the turn player may put a card in their hand face down into their Chant-Standby Area by paying 2. That 2 is the same kind of 2 you see on Nameless Tank, where it could be 2 of any will, any color. So you see we have the Water Stone and the Wind Magic Stone down in the bottom left. These are going to be the 2 will that we tap to produce that. If they have priority, that means, again, if nothing else is trying to be resolved right now, if your opponent isn't trying to play any cards on your turn, it is their main phase. After recovery phase, you go into main phase. This is where you play all your cards. They are not in a battle. You should not be in a battle when you're in your main phase. That's a very important fact. And the chase area is empty. Again, as long as no other cards are being played at that time, you have the free range to play your stuff into your Chant-Standby Area. So what does this all mean? Basically, you tap 2, and you put a card from your hand face down. You can put any card in your hand face down into your Chant-Standby Area, but there are only 2 types of cards that have effects while they're in that Chant-Standby Area, and that is a Resonator with Stealth or a Spell Chant Standby. On the left here we have the Executioner, who is a 1 mana 300/300 creature, or Resonator. Again, these terms are pretty interchangeable with Magic terms, but the Executioner can be played for its 1 black will, if you wish, but if you pay 2 to set it into your Chant-Standby Area, you can activate it from that area if its stealth condition is met. So, as you can see next to stealth, it says you control a Darkness Magic Stone and a Resonator was put into your opponent's field this turn. This is your stealth condition. Basically, if your Executioner is in your Chant-Standby Area and that condition is met, you may play it without paying its cost. So you can play it without paying that 1 Darkness will from the top that you see there. And it has an additional effect when it's played from the Chant-Standby Area, which is to destroy a target Resonator. This is a very powerful effect. The Executioner is a very strong card when played from the Chant-Standby Area, and it is a great example of how the stealth mechanic works. Now moving over to Flame Trap. Flame Trap is a 3-cost spell Chant-Standby, so it's fairly highly costed, but by tapping 2 will of any color to put it into your Chant-Standby Area, you can bypass that 3-cost and make it a 2-cost, but you must meet its trigger condition no matter what. Flame Trap's trigger condition is that you have to control a Fire Magic Stone, and your opponent has to control 4 or more Resonators. This trigger condition is denoted by the colon after the word Resonators. After that colon is the actual effect of the card, which is that this card deals 800 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. That is a lot of damage. That's a very powerful effect. Setting it into the Chant-Standby Area will make it so that you can activate it earlier. Quick note about spell Chant Standbys is that if they're in your hand and their trigger condition is met, you can play them at any given time, but you have to pay the full cost that's displayed up at the top in order to do it. So be sure to keep that in mind, but a lot of the time people really like to activate Flame Trap from the Chant-Standby Area. Another quick note to go over is that Resonators with Stealth are able to be played from the Chant-Standby Area during the same turn that they were set there. So say you set the Executioner, your opponent plays a Resonator on your turn, you can immediately flip in the Executioner and destroy that Resonator. With Flame Trap, say you set it on your turn, your opponent plays 4 Resonators on your turn somehow, or plays their 4th Resonator, you cannot activate it until your next turn. So keep that in mind. This has come up a few times during the duels that I've had, so make sure you keep that little condition in mind before you start setting wildly and trying to activate Flame Trap the same turn it was set. You can't do that. So again, make sure you understand that before going into this. And honestly, that is all we have for the basics. Those are the very, very basic rules for the game. That goes over pretty much every area on the board. So basically speaking, that's the basics of the game. Tune in for the next episode. We'll go over keywords. Eventually we'll go into how the battle system works, which is a little complex, but it's really good to get a handle on it because it is the core gameplay of the game. And we'll probably go over phases at another time in a little more detail, but for now, this has been the basics. I hope you all enjoyed, and this is Mike from Deepwood Force of Will.